Hey everybody, it's Peter, and in this video we're going to review the 2023 Kawasaki Ninja 650. And right up front, I'm a huge fan of this bike, and it's improved for 2023. So we're going to talk about the differences, we're going to talk about things, and there are some new colors to celebrate. We'll get to them in 1 second, but first of all, I'm filming here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, and they give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup. So if you have questions about this bike or you just want to follow it and learn more, this is not the only video I'm going to make on these bikes. I'm going to be able to make more and more and more, so make sure you subscribe if you're interested in these bikes, and let me know in the comments if there's something that I didn't cover in this video that you want to know about. Let me know, because I'll answer you both in the comment section and in future videos. So, like I said, I'm excited about this bike. I'm perfectly happy to make more videos on it because I like it. But we're going to talk about this. So first of all, before we go too far, I've got my camera or my computer off screen here because let's talk about the colors. And Kawasaki colors, really hard to memorize names of. So over here, far left side, we have the metallic matte graphene steel gray / ebony. So in other words, ebony the black color and the gray color is called that. This one here really stands out. I really like this one here, and I'm gonna have to make a little click on my screen here. This one is called Pearl Robotic White Metallic Flat Raw Gray Stone and Ebony, which I'm going to call white, but it actually is white and orange, and I didn't hear anything about orange in there because I don't think flat raw gray stone, I think that's what this is different than the little bit of orange in there. Really cool color. We're going to use that one probably mainly in this video. This one here is the KRT edition. Normally the KRT paint job is a little bit more expensive. Let me put my computer back here for a second. Normally this is a little bit more expensive, and you can feel that extra paint, you know, the extra cost of that when you feel sort of on here, all of these colors are sort of clear coated in right here on the naming and on the side. We'll show you that a little later. And you can still see the same thing here. The Kawasaki here is right underneath the clear coat, whereas this one, not so much. It feels maybe more like a sticker, that kind of thing. But that pearl color really looks good. It looks good in the sunshine. When I do a video again on these, we'll get them outside in the sunshine, we'll show you. And I will say that this color here, this gray color here, does not appear to be the same color as that gray down there. Now, I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem to list that like that. So really kind of a cool standout color, and that's just the colors. There's lots of features on these bikes, and I've always been a fan of the 400, and I felt like the 400 was just so close to the 650 for most people's riding. I feel like now they're stepping it up. First of all, you've got some better colors. There are certainly reasons to move to the 650, but they've added traction control for 2023, and the overall package here is a really good package. Better tires, great dash. So we're going to talk about all those differences that really separate it from that 400 now and really make it a really good bike. They also handle well. They're just a lot of fun, and they give you the look that you want. They've really nailed the look of these. When you see these things in person, it's hard to show on screen and on camera and just, you know, general internet research. But when you see these things in person, they really stand out as kind of that sport bike you've been dreaming about. These ones really give you that. So let's get in depth with these ones. I'm probably going to use just this white one here as my main one, but if there's other things you want to see, I'll try to get pictures at the end of the video showing all the colors, and we'll go from there. So let's dig in. All right, so before I go too far, I just want to make sure that I was clear. I don't remember if I said this, but the gray model is about $300 cheaper than this model and the KRT. So like I said, KRT usually costs more. This one is an extra $300, and like I said, I think there's value there for the paint scheme. It is what it is. And then the gray one, of course, is more of that entry level. If you like the gray, you can save 300 bucks. And if you like these ones, there is a bit of a cost, but I think there's value in that. So let's talk about the 650 and where it's placed in the lineup and just in general motorcycling. So first of all, you're getting full Ninja race bike styling, but this isn't a Ninja race bike. So there's a couple options. There's the ZX6R, which is more expensive, significantly faster, and much less comfortable. I've done a video on that already. And now for 2023, there will be the ZX4R and the ZX4RR. They're not a whole lot different in price than this. I have to double check that exact spec, but a lot of time it's kind of in the realm of this one. Now that one's gonna be a very limited edition. It's gonna be hard to get. And that 400 ZXRR is a 4-cylinder. This is still a 2-cylinder. That 4-cylinder is going to be likely more powerful, probably a lot less torque than this, but it's going to have more horsepower than this. And that is in that full race tuck position. Now the thing I find with this is a lot of us have dreamed of Kawasaki sport bikes, of owning one, and then we get into that ZX lineup, the ZX6, ZX4, and you find that they're just not that comfortable for everyday riding. So what this bike is an absolutely perfect street sport bike that you can take to the track, but it's comfortable. And it's really, they do a good job of comfort on a lot of fronts here. So first of all, here's my seating position. You have an appropriately sporty kind of lean to it, but there's not a lot of weight on your wrist. You're not way down like this. So if you see the ZX6, this video that I did, the handlebars are down here. That's my upright riding position on that. So you still have essentially clip-ons here, but you're sitting more upright and much more comfortable. The passenger seat also is an upgrade over most of the sport bikes in this class, or in the Kawasaki lineup even. The 400 has a smaller seat. You're not gonna be taking a ton of passengers on the 400. This one you can take a passenger with some comfort, and it's still, you know, for a sport bike, it's still sport bike, very comfortable. Obviously, probably the Versus 650 is the best engine like this with a passenger, same engine if you're taking a passenger regularly. But staying right here, you have a nice sporty kind of feel to it. All the controls are in here. We're gonna look at the dash. You have a TFT display. We're gonna talk about that kind of thing. But you can see here the sporty position, your legs are nice and tucked up high. You can really lean this bike over in a corner and have some fun with it. We're gonna talk about the tires, which are, again, an upgrade over something like the 400, which give you a little bit more sporting capability. There's a lot of pieces in this that give you the sporting capability while still being very comfortable. And I think that's a real key piece to this bike. So let's start digging into some of those sporty components. Then we're gonna take a look at some of the technology in this, and then we're gonna come back and sort of wrap up with sort of an overview of a number of different things. So let's start at the front wheel. So as we take a look at the front wheel here, there's a few things I want to point out. First of all, just talk about a style thing. You have this sort of orangey color that's also on the top of the tank. We'll show you that a little bit later. A lot of time when there's a decal on the wheel on a lot of these bikes, they have it sort of in one section and then dashed in another section. It's completely all the way around here. I kind of like it. It looks pretty cool. It may not look as cool on camera, but when you see the bike from a distance in person, it just kind of gives you that little bit of an offset from the tire to the rim, the black rim there. You got thin spoke rims, so you've got some nice lightweight rims here as well. And then you've got a lot of things going for you for overall sporting capability, style, a lot of things they do right here. So let's just talk about sporting capability first. You have the Road Sport 2 tires. Now I'm gonna be honest, this one kind of bothers me. The Ninja 650, the Z650, the Z650 RS, they use these Road Sport 2 tires. I just bought the Z900 RS, the SE model, which is supposedly the sporting edition, the special edition. It's got upgraded brakes, upgraded suspension, and it doesn't have as good tires as this. So you've got really good sporting tires here, and you can actually feel the difference in the rubber here. So they're probably a dual compound here, a firmer rubber up top here, which is gonna give you good durability, good wear, and then down here you can really feel on the side, this is definitely a grippy rubber. So good tires here, and again, that plays into how you're gonna be riding this. You can really lean this bike over. The foot pegs are nice and high, and you've got the tires to do it. Down here with the disc brakes, you've got a few things going on as well. You've got the pedal style rotors. Now, we've kind of figured out over time, we used to talk about these pedal style rotors, they dissipate heat. And while they do, what Kawasaki is doing is they're moving away from some of these pedal style rotors in some of their bikes. Something like the Ninja 1000, obviously more power than this. It actually has the sort of the round rotors, no indents on the outside, this pedal style on the outside. So really these are about style, although the drilled holes there, they're about ventilation as well. So I kind of like that they did the style like this because it just makes it look like a sportier bike. They're cool style, they work well, and of course it's a dual disc system, so it's a step up from the 400 where you have a single disc. Now you've got dual discs, so you've got better braking capacity, not just for a little bit extra weight and a little bit extra speed, but just overall for that better braking feel. And of course these are ABS brakes. So we're going to talk about the ABS and traction control system in a second here, so keep that all in mind. That's all part of giving you a really sporty, advanced kind of riding feeling here. And then just nice little aerodynamic details here. And again, I love this color in person. You have to see it in person. It doesn't film as well as it looks in person. So I kind of zoomed in awkwardly on the bike right now just because I want to show you some things, and sometimes they're harder to show. The bodywork here is styled great. It looks great in person. You've got a lot of little details of little fins of extra things that just make it visually interesting. And that's one of those things when you're designing cars or bikes, it's the little details that give you that visual interest. So when you're looking at it, it's the kind of bike when you get off it, you're going to walk away from it, you're going to look back at it. But it also, in addition to the style, has some practical benefits. So the styling here does wrap in, which means when your knees are over here, you've got a little bit of extra wind protection here on the cold days. Not only is it more aerodynamic, it also, like I said, can keep some of the little bit cooler wind off you just a little bit. You're still out here, but you've got some protection in there. As we're looking down here, one of the things I really like here is sort of an underrated thing. A lot of people don't realize that most of the exhaust from an emissions control standpoint is now done on a lot of bikes underneath here. You don't need the tailpipe anymore. So what they do on the Ninja 650 here is they bring it down and put it underneath, and they just give you a little stubby thing there. So that does a couple things for you. First of all, from a style perspective, it allows you to see this really cool swing arm down here. Not a straight, square tube. It's got some style to it. It's got some sporting function. It shows off your rear disc brake here with those ABS sensor down there. It just looks really cool. But the other thing it does is it takes the heaviest components of all this stuff, and instead of sticking them up high into the side, it sticks them right underneath the bike. That's all going to contribute to a really good handling bike because you've got the weight down low and centralized, which is really good. They do the same thing with the suspension here. You can barely see it. They used to put suspension down here on older bikes, and they move it all the way forward, so it's all up in here, sort of buried into the bodywork, which again moves that weight forward, keeps it low, centralized, and it's a good monoshock there. And then I'm not going to sort of advocate for tail tidies. I mean, some people want them, some people don't. But if you did get a tail tidy on this, you can see you've got a nice sort of stubby rear end here, which really kind of exposes the wheel and gives you that sporty look and kind of, again, centralizes that weight. Good passenger seat, which we already talked about. You also have rubber foot pads for both the driver and the passenger in here, and a little extra hook down here if you had a little cargo net. Now, of course, there's a lot of ways to mount cargo to these types of seats. Lots of manufacturers have come out with sort of aftermarket stuff. I think Kawasaki has a tail bag as well that'll fit on this, but lots of options to take some luggage if you want. So now let's talk about this engine. This is a parallel twin liquid cooled engine that they use in just about everything. And when they use it in everything else, they talk about it as the Ninja 650 engine. Now, it's in various states of tune for most bikes. Sometimes there's a couple horsepower difference here and there. But at the end of the day, the reason they call it the Ninja 650 engine is because it was designed for this bike. It is both a torquey engine, which is really good, and it has good high-end power. It's a really, really good street sport bike, a street sport engine. So again, on a racetrack, people can take these to the racetrack, you can do that, but really where that power band is good is on the street. A lot of time a super sport bike really has no torque down low, and you have all your horsepower way up high, and by the time you're up that high, you're well beyond speed limits. So this makes it a really fun to drive unit that also gives you great power, pretty good efficiency as well. And again, that weight is all centralized. They use it in this, they use it in everything. I had this on the Versa 650 that I owned for a number of years. It's a lot of fun. Let's step back out, we'll talk about some technology. All right, so when we talk about technology, let's talk about the traction control, which is new this year. Now, there's various types of traction control in the Kawasaki lineup. So this one, what it has is we mentioned those ABS sensors, and you probably can't see them from that shot. Maybe I'll take a picture here and show you. There's a little bit of a, slotted piece here on the disc brakes. That's your ABS sensor. And the software can also use that for traction control. So the way it works on a bike like this is it senses how fast, say, the rear wheel is moving, and it compares it to the front wheel, and it kind of knows, okay, we're not slipping here. So this bike isn't really going to do a power slide out in normal dry road conditions. You'd have to, really dump that clutch and really get it working to do that. But you will find, certainly in wet weather, that you can have some slippage there. So you have the ability for the bike itself, before you can even sense it, to be able to start reacting to what's going on with wheel speed. Now, this is also a bike that's not going to accidentally power wheelie. It's something that, it can do wheelies, but it's not going to totally surprise you unless you're really dumping that clutch and that kind of thing. On something like the Ninja 1000, they have the IMU. The IMU is not on this bike. That senses lean angle, all kinds of different angles, and it also can sense when the bike comes up. So do you have wheelie control with traction control? Essentially, again, I'm speaking for myself, not for Kawasaki, but essentially you still have some of that wheelie control here, which again, this bike's not going to power wheelie without you really kind of wanting to wheelie. But because when you do something like a wheelie, it's going to sense this speed is, spinning at or this wheel's spinning at a certain speed, and this wheel is slowing down, in other words, the ground's not pushing it, it will sense that, and it is able to help you bring that wheel back down. So if you're concerned about doing a wheelie because you're aggressive and that kind of thing, that traction control can help you. But mostly what it's going to do is keep those slides a little bit more under control, especially in poor weather. I drove a bike with this engine. Again, it was a Versus, it was a heavier bike. Didn't really find the need for traction control in really dry conditions, but absolutely when the tires are cold, it is something that you could want with the amount of power on this bike, and having it is just such a great safety feature. So we're going to show you how the electronics set that up in here now, but that's how it kind of works as far as a mechanical piece. So now we're looking at the dash of the Ninja 650, and this is a TFT display. And a lot of time I try to move the glare from the studio lights outside of the area here, but with these TFT displays, I kind of like to show you with some glare here because you can really see, first of all, a camera doesn't film a screen as nearly as clearly as your eyes can see that screen. So I want to be clear on that, even though you still see some glare with the camera. From a visual perspective, using my actual eyes instead of the camera, you can really see that this is a clear, easy to read display. So first of all, you've got a tack that springs nice and wide here, so you can really kind of tell at a glance where you are. You can set this up to flash at a certain RPM if you want it to warn you before you hit red line or something like that, which is helpful. But let's just stay with that traction control for a second there. So right now you can see KTRC, Kawasaki, which is a K, TR for traction, C for control. KTRC is their brand name for their traction control. You can see it sitting there. I'm going to press the select button here, and then I can move it up to off, or I can move it down to level 1 or level 2. So you can see level 2 and I can select that. So what's nice is you can adapt this and do it while you're riding. I'll show you the controller in a second on the left-hand handlebar. We're going to leave it at 1 right now, which is probably how I would drive this bike all the time. Now, of course, if you want to turn it off, you absolutely can. But what's nice is if you reach a stretch of road where maybe it's just some rain falls or something like that, on the fly, you can set up the traction control to work with you to make sure that you've got some extra protection when you need it, and you can back it off if you want as well. So again, nice to have that layer of protection. But let's talk about the rest of this dash here. You've got everything you need. So using the same selection switch, but a different style. Well, again, we'll show you that switch in a second here. I'm going to show you some of the information down in here. So I'm going to cycle down here. You can see at the left side, you got trip A. We got trip A, trip B, and you've got odometer right there. So again, that's this controller there. Trip A, trip B, and the odometer. And then I accidentally already switched this one. This is your average fuel efficiency. Now it's listed as kilometers per liter. If you're American, it'll be miles per gallon. I believe there's a UK miles per gallon as well. I like switching mine to liters per 100 kilometers. So that's what I did on my bike here, but currently it's set up for kilometers per liter. That's your average efficiency. Then you have your range. Then you have your average speed, which is nice to have as well, total time. And then you have the battery volts and the instant. So instant here for instant fuel efficiency, average fuel efficiency, and then you cycle through the rest of them there. You always have a clock visible no matter what. And you have a temperature gauge there, which reads its temperature as well. And of course, your fuel gauge, this is, actually, I kind of like that it's low right now. It shows you how it works. It is, all of these bars will light up more white, and then of course it'll be the last bar just lights. When the last bar is flashing and your fuel light's flashing, then you're very, very low. So you don't have to necessarily fill up just when you're on that last bar, but when it's flashing, that's your last indicator. Overall, this dash is clear, it's crisp, it's easy to read, and it gives you all the information you need at a glance. And of course, having traction control, you can tell at a glance if it's on and what level it's in, so you know whether your tires are cold or whether you're hitting, areas where you think traction is going to be an issue. You can just dial it up or down as you need to, which is really, really helpful. So I'm going to pan just a little bit left here on one shot. This might be a mistake here, but let's just try that. This bike also does have a availability of a 12 volt or USB port in there. So if you're planning on mounting your phone somewhere, you can power it right through right there. It's already kind of built in. That's another advantage of moving to the Ninja from the Z650 here. You have that port there. And again, unlike the Z650, on the Ninja, your dash is mounted to the fairing. It does not turn with the handlebars, and that allows you to just have a, sort of a nice consistent look there as well. We'll talk about the mirrors in a second here as well, but let's look at the controls first. All right, normally when I film the left side controls, there's kind of a lot going on, and I usually kind of zoom in closer, but I kind of want to show you everything all at once here. So let's see if this works from a visual perspective, and maybe I'll never do this again. There is a little trigger switch right here. That trigger switch will flash your high beam. These are LED lights. We'll talk about the lighting in a second in this video, but if you just want to get someone's attention, you can just flash that back and forth, or you can just flash to pass. If you want to lock your high beams on, you do it right there. Signal lights, this is all typical stuff. Again, we'll show you lighting. They're LED lights, which is really cool. Horn down here, and you do have a four-way flasher or hazard lights, which I think is really nice to have. So here's that selection switch. This is what's different. If you have this selection thing in the middle on a Kawasaki bike, that usually means you have traction control. So to get traction control to activate, I tap this, and then I can move up or down to move from level 1 or level 2 or off. If I don't select this, This moves that odometer, so trip A, trip B, and odometer, and this moves the bottom display. So upper display and bottom display. This was the fuel efficiency, average fuel efficiency, the stuff we just showed you. So very intuitive once you figure out what you're doing. Can be confusing for a second or two, but once you're on the bike, you can adapt it, and without even thinking, you've got everything you need right there. Now the reason I'm showing you this view is a couple reasons. You've got your clutch lever right here, which has the adjustable lever. So the adjustability is really nice to have because you can adjust it for reach, 5 different areas here, and I believe you have the same 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, 5 on the brake lever as well. So you've got the ability to adjust this for reach and the brake lever for reach, which means this bike's gonna fit you. Now, I kept the mirror in the shot. You can see my camera that I'm filming with right now. The reason this is kind of nice to have the mirror here is as we zoom out just a little bit further, we're going a full wide angle view. If you're in a full tuck position here, the mirrors on the Ninja are in front of you. If you were on the Z650, the mirrors come up off here, and when you're in a full tuck position, your head is kind of in this area and you don't have mirrors. So one of the benefits of moving to the Ninja is if you go in that tuck position, if you're gonna do racetrack days or you just wanna drive in that tuck position every now and then, you still have your mirrors within view, which is something that's nice to have on a sporty bike. So before we move on to the lighting, let's just flesh out a couple things that we've seen. When you have this TFT display, you also have a level of smartphone connectivity with your Rideology app. So you do have some integration here, ability to see when you have messages or emails or those kind of things, and a number of other things. Various Kawasaki bikes have various levels of connectivity with that system here. But like I said, you have that, so it's available to you. So that's one nice feature to have. And we'll do a video in the future about the Rideology app. The other thing with the clutch lever, although it's adjustable, that's nice to have, it's also a slipper and assist clutch. And since you're buying this bike with traction control, traction matters to you, a slipper and assist clutch is also part of that traction system. So the way it works on a slipper and assist clutch is if you're messing up a downshift, it comes really from the racetrack, but if you mess up a downshift or do a really aggressive downshift and dump that clutch on a bike without a slipper and assist clutch, sometimes you can have enough engine braking that the wheel will essentially slide or go into a slide and that kind of thing. So you don't really want that. And I've done this on this type of bike, my Versa 650. I came into a corner hot and I took a tight corner. It was cold tires on a cold day, dumped that clutch, and that bike that I had did not have the slipper and assist clutch, and the rear wheel just stepped out on me. Now, it could have been worse. It's not a big deal. If you're used to riding, sometimes you can do that on purpose, get that wheel to slide a little bit. It's not the end of the world. But the slipper and assist clutch, instead of having that wheel slide on me, what it allows it to do is when it has a lot of engine braking, it'll allow the clutch to slip just a little bit on its own, which allows your wheel to stay in control and have good traction. So between the traction control and the slipper and assist clutch, you've got a number of things that are going to help you maintain traction, which makes you drive faster on a racetrack and safer on the roads. Now, the side benefit of that slipper and assist clutch is because of the design of it, it's able to have a lighter clutch pull lever, which makes this bike more enjoyable to drive in town because it doesn't have a really heavy clutch lever. It's just nice and easy to put in and out. And then of course, when you're zipping through the gears, your hand's not getting tired and you're really precise on that. So it's just good all the way around. So really nice features there. Now let's take a look at the lighting on this bike. So headlights are a little bit tough to film, but some of the older Kawasaki bikes used to have a low beam here and a high beam there. They've fixed that when they went to all LED lighting. So all LED lighting is good for a whole lot of reasons. One, it just looks cooler. Two, that whiter light is a little bit brighter, but it also is closer to daylight in color, which means when you're driving down the road, your eyes are used to seeing things and identifying things, or your brain reads what your eyes are telling it. Your brain identifies things in a daylight color. That's what it's used to doing. So when you're driving at night, if you had a halogen light with that yellow tint, it actually takes your brain longer to decipher what you're seeing. This being closer to a white color, daylight type color, allows you to identify things early so you feel safer even if it's not brighter in lumens, because your eyes are able to identify what you see right away. So of course this is the low beam right there. We're going to flash that high beam for a second there. I don't know how well. It's aimed just below the camera. So again, they don't film well. Certainly very, very bright. If we were to aim it directly at the camera, you would see that. Now the other nice thing here is you have a full LED turn signal. In fact, we have hazard lights. Let's use them right here. And again, on this bike, on the Ninja, they're built into the bodywork. Something like the Z650, they're out on stocks. I think this looks cleaner, it looks more modern. It's probably a little bit more aerodynamic, but it looks pretty cool. And again, those LEDs are that instant on, instant off. They just look really sharp. So from a styling and safety perspective, things look good. Let's check the lights on the back now. So taking a look at the back here, of course, you've got this kind of cool design here with the taillight. It is a bright LED taillight and, you know, brake light, of course, right? So you've got the really nice bright light there. It gives us some style. Again, this bike's all about style as well as function, and you get both of them here. Those bright LEDs work well, but they also give you that cool style. And then four-way flashers or hazard lights again. You have something here that I don't have on my Z900 RS. These are proper LED lights, so they're instant on, instant off. They're gonna catch your attention better than the incandescent lights in my mind, and they give you that fully modern look, so you've got that full modern sportbook look. The only thing I think they do wrong is I'm pretty sure this isn't, yeah it is, it's an incandescent bulb on the license plate light. Would have liked to see that one as an LED light. Of course, I'm sure the aftermarket could take care of that, but that is something that I would have liked to see here, given that everything else is LED. So let's talk about who this bike is for. Now, normally at this point, I talk about the features. We're gonna get to that in 1 second, but one thing I'll always leave out, and you know, I think it's important too, if you want a bike that looks great, this 2023 Ninja in these new colors, depending on the color scheme you want, it really does look great. It looks the part, it looks sporty, and it also drives the part. So again, this is not the ZX4RR. This is not a super sport bike that's uncomfortable, but extreme. This is a bike that is absolutely a blast to ride on the street, everywhere. It handles really, really well. The way the weight is kind of sitting there, you've got the weight down low, the torquiness of this engine, along with the good horsepower numbers, and again, they use this engine in everything. It's really, really good. Now, what are the downfalls? You can really use this bike for everything. It's comfortable enough to do day tours or something like that. If you're doing two-up touring and you want to stay in this class, the Versa 650 is going to be a better option. You can come and check this bike out and compare it to the Z650, which is essentially the same thing. In my mind, has a little bit less style, but you may like that upright or that different seating style. The handlebars are slightly different position, neither more or less comfortable, but it is slightly different. There's also the Z650 RS, which is a retro sport, still uses the engine, still uses the brakes, still uses the suspension of essentially this bike, but that retro sport kind of look. So you've got a lot of options in the class in this type of thing, in this type of class. But this bike is all about someone who wants that sport bike feel, sport bike look, all the up-to-date technology, because like I said, something on the retro sport, it's got retro style gauges, that RS model. This one you have the TFT display, which again you still get in the Versus, you still get in the Z650 as well. Adding traction control was a good feature to have on this bike. Between the tires, the upgraded brakes, and the TFT display, it does differentiate itself from the 400, as well as something like a little bit bigger passenger seat, having more power. You can take a passenger probably more regularly than you might on something like the Ninja 400. So it's really well placed in the lineup. If you want something that's peppy and energetic and really handles well, that 400 is there for you. But you're not just stepping up in power when you move to the 650. Like I said, the better brakes, the better dash, a little bit better seating capacity, and it's a slightly larger chassis. So you have a little more footroom here. On the 400, the exhaust comes up here, and it's, you know, if you have really large feet, it can be really tight because it's giving that compact feel. Here, there's no exhaust there, so it fits larger riders well. I'm just a huge, huge fan of this bike because I think it's really versatile, it's really comfortable, and it's just a really good bike. So if you're interested in it, let me know. Let me know in the comments below if you ride it, if you like it, tell me what you like about it so we can kind of build a database of information. And if you have questions, let me know in those comments section. Hit the subscribe, follow along, because we're going to do more videos on this bike. And remember, I'm filming here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals. You want to come see this? They have every color. I think they still have a couple 2022s in stock as well, so you can get some discounts there and see everything. 2022s will not have that traction control, something to keep in mind. But yeah, you can come check them out here, and of course, they give me complete access to their lineup, so I'll be able to make you more videos. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.